Red Bull's difficult start to 2026 is not simply a lack of pace. It is the visible cost of a choice they refuse to treat as an escape route. And within that choice is a wider warning for Formula One. Under a new rules cycle, development time becomes more than lap time. It becomes leverage, confidence, and pressure all at once. Laurent Mekies has now addressed the central question. Did Red Bull switch too late to the development of its 2026 car? His answer is clear. Yes, the team is paying a price. But the deeper point is why Red Bull accepted that risk in the first place. Mekies argues that turning the page early to 2026 would have been an easy escape, even wishful thinking, because the team still did not fully understand the limitations of its 2025 car. In his view, moving on too soon would have created a comforting narrative. Next year will be better, without proving why the previous car struggled. Red Bull chose the harder path, an aggressive late push in 2025 to force clarity, even if it compromised the opening of 2026. The cause and effect is straightforward. The time and energy invested late last year inevitably changes where you start the next one. Mekies admits that directly. Of course, it has an impact, but then he draws a boundary. Do we use it as an excuse? No. That matters because F1 teams can always point to a future project to explain a present deficit. Mekies is refusing that comfort. He is presenting the struggle as a technical problem to solve, not a storyline to hide behind. The numbers underline the contrast. In late 2025, Red Bull turned the corner with the RB21. Verstappen collected 10 podiums and 6 victories in the second half of the campaign. That is what a recovery looks like when solutions arrive. But the current campaign has begun very differently. Red Bull's best race result so far is still 6th place, achieved by Verstappen in Australia. That is not the continuation of late 2025 momentum. It is a reset to a weaker baseline. So how can a team finish one season strong and begin the next in difficulty? Mekies' explanation points to process. Late development brings two things: performance and understanding. Red Bull pursued understanding. What exactly limited the 2025 car, and why? Because without that, the team believed 2026 could become an illusion of progress rather than real progress. But understanding has a cost, and that cost is time spent not building the next car. Now Red Bull has to do something harder than a late-season surge. It must climb from an unsatisfactory starting point, while rivals may have committed earlier to the new direction. Mekies does not hide the disappointment. We're not happy with the starting point. But he signals confidence based on the team's record of responding to adversity. The plan is familiar: diagnose limitations, then reverse them. He frames this season as another opportunity to execute that turnaround. Yet modern F1 pressure is not only aerodynamic or mechanical, it is also human, and it is also contractual. Riccardo Patrese has stressed that the sport cannot afford to lose Max because Verstappen makes the show so much better. But his key point is strategic. Verstappen stayed at Red Bull for one season to assess who is best under the new rules. Not 3 years, not 4. 1. Patrase's logic is blunt. If Verstappen sees Red Bull cannot give him a competitive car, he will go to another team where he can fight for the championship. He also suggests Verstappen would want to try another competitive car and pursue a 5th title, rather than leaving Formula One immediately. That creates a timer. When your best result is 6th, the issue is not only points, it is perception inside the team, in the paddock, and in the mind of a driver who is actively assessing the new competitive order. And the wider grid context makes that assessment even more volatile, because this phase of the rules cycle is exposing how quickly weekends can swing on complexity, timing, and safety. At Suzuka, George Russell described a race shaped by timing and battery deployment problems. He explains that at the safety car restart, he could not charge his battery, and he was overtaken by Lewis Hamilton. Then he referenced another battery-related issue involving Charles Leclerc. Russell's takeaway is telling: these cars are still very complicated, it's still very early, and you have to make these mistakes to learn. He calls the outcome pure luck, arguing that if the crash had happened one lap later, they would have won. His message is not complaint for its own sake. It is a reminder that early in a cycle, reliability of systems and execution can matter as much as raw pace. Then Suzuka produced a more serious prompt for debate: Oliver Bearman's heavy crash. The sequence is clear. With Franco Colapinto going slowly ahead into Spoon, Bearman took avoiding action, went onto the grass, lost control, and hit the barrier at high speed. Bearman said he was fine afterward, but described a scary moment. He also highlighted a massive overspeed, 50 kilometers per hour, calling it part of these new regulations that drivers must get used to. Crucially, he felt he was not given much space despite carrying that huge excess speed. The reaction spread beyond one incident. Many drivers voiced displeasure about why it happened and about the current generation of cars, including Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. Sainz demanded quick changes and warned that a similar crash in Miami or Las Vegas could have major consequences. This is where the competitive and regulatory threads converge. If the regulations create scenarios where overspeed and limited space become more likely, incidents become more than isolated events. They become arguments. Arguments become pressure. And pressure can lead to change, which can reshape the competitive landscape again. That is the environment Red Bull is trying to recover within. Not stable, not predictable, and not guaranteed to remain constant. Against that backdrop, Lewis Hamilton's story offers the opposite side of a rules reset. When the new direction suits the driver, confidence can return quickly. Hamilton describes last year as difficult, acknowledging the questions that appeared during hard seasons. But he insists he never gave up, and says it felt good to come into this season, start off strong, and show he can still compete at the front. He trained harder than ever and embedded himself at Ferrari, staying in his motorhome at Fiorano to stay close to the team and keep conversations moving. With the ground effect era cars he never got comfortable with now behind him, he could focus on the 2026 spec direction. Based on early evidence, it is better suited to his driving style, giving him more confidence and enabling cleaner weekends. So the contrasts sharpen. Hamilton finds alignment and renewed belief. Russell describes complexity and early learning through errors. Bearman's crash triggers debate about overspeed and space. And Red Bull begins the campaign paying a known price for a late development decision, while Verstappen, by Patrici's account, is evaluating who truly mastered the new rules, which raises the central tension. If Red Bull's late 2025 push was the correct choice to understand limitations properly, how quickly can that understanding be converted into a 2026 turnaround? If the team believes it can repeat last year's recovery pattern, how many races can it afford, where sixth is the benchmark? And if regulation concerns grow after incidents like Suzuka, could the competitive order be influenced not just by development speed, but by how the sport responds? Mekies is confident Red Bull will get through these difficulties. Patrese is clear that Verstappen will seek competitiveness. The grid is already highlighting complexity, timing, and safety under the new conditions. So was Red Bull right to reject the easy escape and pay the price now, or has that choice created a gap that even their famous ability to recover may not close in time?